What's going on, Jerome? So yes, a lot of people have called us Minnesota Fighting Vikings fans foolhardy because we're pinning our hopes and dreams on slinging Sam Darnold, a.k.a. America's quarterback. And yeah, it has worked out the way that it was drawn up when Darnold came in as a highly regarded number 3 overall pick in the 2018 draft. Jets fail, Panthers fail, although he kind of played okay towards the end with the Panthers. Replacing Baker Mayfield, who was the number 1 pick of the 2018 draft and turned out okay with the Buccaneers last year. Not that I'm keeping count. And also, he had a backup season with the Niners last season. And as we said before, his backup season in San Francisco, I feel like is really underrated because he played in a similar offense. You know, the Shanahan and the Kevin O'Connell offense has a lot of similar asks of the quarterback, as well as just being around a culture of winning. Right. So the San Francisco 49ers, NFC Champions, won most of a Super Bowl last year, and Darnold was a part of that. And also just being part of the history and the culture, notably Steve Young. All right, so Steve Young is one of the best quarterbacks of the 90s, first ballot Hall of Famer. Prior to BYU, multi-time Super Bowl winner, one as a starter, 2 as a backup to Joe Montana. But I mean, Steve Young, I feel like he gets lost in the shuffle of the pantheon of great quarterbacks, mainly because his career didn't really start until he was 30. And but overall, like when I was growing up watching football, like Steve Young was the man. Like Steve Young, Jerry Rice, of course, Terrell Owens starting out his career before he became T.O., Ricky Waters and stuff. They're pretty damn good. Pretty damn fantastic. And Andrew Kramer over the Star Tribune did up a lengthy piece about Sam Darnold. Go check it out. But what's interesting is that his time in San Francisco, there's one crossover here with Steve Young. Before San Francisco's NFC Championship game win over the Detroit Lions, remember when the Lions blew that massive lead? By the way, the Lions would have boat raced the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. That Super Bowl window closed fast, man. Former 49ers legend Steve Young addressed the entire team. Darnold sat in the crowd listening to an old gunslinger who knew something about a slow starting career. Quote, just to hear about his experience and the ups and downs he went through in his career with Tampa Bay, Darnold said, not a lot of people really know about that. To see what he went through and then bounce back in San Francisco. Again, there's a ton of examples, but every story is different. And it's absolutely true. Like Steve Young, eventually, set the Super Bowl record, 6 touchdowns in that Super Bowl in '94 against the Chargers. I think Mike Shanahan was the OC. I think Shanahan was the OC, and I think Gary Kubiak was the quarterback's coach. Don't quote me on that. Pretty sure. But also, I love the throwback '94 uniforms that the Niners are using now with like the shadow on the font. It's really good, man. But before Steve Young became All-Pro Super Bowl MVP quarterback, like he had struggles. Right, so he came out of BYU and sort of seen as sort of a small southpaw scrambling quarterback. Didn't really know what to make of him, but highly regarded. Went to the USFL. When that was the thing, was with the LA Express. Also was the number 1 overall pick in the supplemental draft by the Buccaneers. And eventually after the USFL folded, Steve Young had 2 horrible seasons with the Buccaneers. And overall, it just really was not good. I mean, he was 3-16 as a starter and was just complete garbaggio, right? And it is a little bit of revisionist history now because of what he's done with the Niners after he got the starting job, winning Super Bowls, making all pros and stuff. But, I mean, he was seen as a bust. Like, again, like I said, people just go back and whitewashing history, but Steve Young was seen as the hyper bust. Like, oh, we told you that the BYU quarterbacks don't pan out. We told you that this high draft pick, USFL, blah, 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 left-handed quarterbacks don't work, man. And what's interesting is after he got traded to the Niners, because Bill Walsh, Bill Walsh had Joe Montana, the best quarterback in the NFL, and debatably top 2 quarterback of all time. Well, Mahomes is coming up pretty soon. Doesn't matter. But Bill Walsh was still looking for quarterback talent, and he picked up Steve Young for a 2nd, 4th round pick. And here's what's interesting from his Wikipedia page. The Buccaneers selected University of Miami quarterback Vinny Testaverde, 1st overall in the 1987 NFL draft because Young was deemed a bust. Young was traded to the San Francisco 49ers on blah, blah, blah to serve as a backup to Joe Montana. 49ers coach Bill Walsh was impressed by Young's natural abilities and believed his lackluster numbers were primarily due to the lack of talent around him in Tampa Bay. Oh, Riri. So you have Steve Young, who is a Hall of Famer, Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl MVP, and all of that because he didn't have talent around him in Tampa Bay. That's why he was poop at. Oh, but Sam Darnold just sucks. Not taking into account what was around him with the Jets, not taking into account what was around him with the Panthers, not taking account of anything. Just Sam Darnold sucks. Oh, Steve Young, Hall of Famer, Super Bowl MVP, but struggled with the Buccaneers. But Sam Darnold just sucks. Yeah, okay. And also, part of that was he was Joe Montana's backup for 6 years. Like, he didn't become the full-time starter from day one until 1993 when Montana was traded to the Chiefs. So it is pretty amazing. So he did start a full season in 1992, was named All-Pro, but Montana was still on the roster. I mean, Montana injured his elbow in 91, was out for the bulk of the 92 season, but he didn't leave until 93. So basically, Steve Young had to wait until he was 32 years young, pun intended, to be the man with the San Francisco 49ers. And George Seifert was in charge by then after Walsh retired in 88. So again, it's not too late. It really is never too late to completely flip the script on the narratives. Like we said, it is revisionist history because of what Steve Young has done, but he was seen as a bust de la bust, like up there with Ryan Leaf, up there with Jamarcus Russell, up there with Baker Mayfield until last year, up there with Sam Darnold until this year. But Steve Young will be the first to tell you that his struggles and his circuitous route to NFL stardom helped him. I mean, if he was the man out of the gate right away and was the dude at 22 years young, again, pun intended, maybe his career doesn't end up the way that it was supposed to, right? But his time in the USFL and then the Buccaneers and then backing up Joe Montana for a number of seasons, and it made him who he was. And that's, I mean, Steve Young was a bad man for a number of years. I wasn't allowed to cheer for him as a kid, even though he was literally my first fantasy football quarterback, because the Niners just consistently destroyed the Vikings. My dad was not happy about things. But the whole thing about it is, too, is like, hey, yeah, I mean, J.J. McCarthy is going to be the man here, but Darnold has this golden opportunity here working with Kevin O'Connell, working with his guy Josh McCown, working with all these weapons that he's never had before in his career. Jefferson, Addison, eventually Hawkinson, Darrisaw watching his ass. I mean, Aaron Jones out of the backfield. So everything is set up for Sam Darnold to finally have some success. And I love that he got that inspiration from Steve Young, where things don't always start out perfectly. Some quarterbacks aren't put in the perfect situation. And I understand that we live in a microwave society where if a guy isn't first team All-Pro out of the gate, he's a bust. Boo. No, sometimes it does just take some time, and peaks and valleys, fits and starts. Things don't go perfectly, but it's not too late. It's never too late. And I firmly believe that with Sam Darnold. And you could say that's copium. Sure, don't care. He is our guy, and we're going to rally around Sam Darnold, and we're going to play damn good football this year. All right, I think Sam Darnold's going to be just fine. I think he's going to have a monster season, baby. But your thoughts are thoughts. Slinging Sam Darnold, a.k.a. America's quarterback, inspired by Steve Young's slow start to his career. Let us know your thoughts, our thoughts, comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. You know what to do. Skol. Production value.